This episode of the Polyhedron Collider Cast is sponsored by Candela. Go to www.candela.co.uk/Polyhedron Collider for a discount off your first order. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Polyhedron Collider Cast, episode 166. I'm Steve Tudor.
Hi, I'm Andy Lewis.
I'm Sid Gill. And I'm Rory Summers, and we have had an intruder. Well, not an intruder, an interloper. Andy has gone off and been on another podcast. What's that all about?
Yes, that's because I'm a very important celebrity in the board gaming world, and people want a piece of me. That's what. In truth, I happened to bump into Richard from We're Not Wizards at Aircon, and we got chatting, and we get on very well. He's a nice bloke, and he invited me onto his podcast.
Yeah.
And that's the long and the short of it, really. Because the last time I was on there was about 8 years ago.
I have listened. I did spit my tea out when you were talking about Benedict Cumberbatch. If that doesn't make sense, go listen to We're Not Wizards and listen to Andy chat on about his board gaming exploits with Richard. Great interview.
You should.
I do love Richard's interview style. It's very haphazard.
It is. It was. I mean, we
but
were
in a
talking
really
for
good way.
2.5 hours. I mean, you only got about an hour and a half of what we actually talked about. The preamble that we didn't record was quite considerable, and then there was more chat afterwards. So it's good. It was just very, very relaxed. It's always entertaining to talk to Richard.
Yeah, that's what Andy's been up to. What about you guys? What have you been up to recently?
I'm about to throw several Infinity miniatures against the wall.
Oh, dear.
Necessary, mate.
Why? What have they done?
So, Corvus Belli were very kind enough to send us a Infinity paint set. So this is the new Army Painter paint set. Previously they had a partnership with Vallejo, and now they've done a new partnership with Army Painter, and I believe they're going to start releasing a paint set for each of their factions.
And these are the Fanatic paints, are they not?
These are the Fanatic paints, although they are rebranded with Infinity labels on the front. Mm. But they have on the side of them what the Fanatic colour is. So they are Fanatic paints. The only difference is each paint set includes one unique colour, which isn't available in the Fanatic paint set.
Oh, interesting.
So yes, so you have to buy an entire set of 10 paints to get that one paint. However,
totally worth it.
You do also get a miniature, which is also an exclusive miniature. So that miniature is not going to be available anywhere else. So in the Pan-Oceania set, you get a Fusilier Medic, which is really useful because Fusiliers are really good for adding orders to units. So I assembled it and painted it, and I forgot, foolishly, how fiddly the detail on Infinity miniatures is. They are tiny, they are covered in straps and buckles and little armour plates and little meshes under the armour and all sorts. And I thought to myself, what I'll do is I'll also paint the rest of my Pan-Oceania stuff that's been sitting on the shelf for 8 years. But I realised that what I did is I painted this Fusilier first, which is the unique one, and I maybe should have left that till last when I've had a bit more practice in. Because I've done it, and it's perfect for gaming. If you hold it at arm's length, it looks great.
I think it looks great even closer up, to be honest.
Yeah, but closer up, you're going, yep, missed a bit there. And a bit there, and you've managed to get paint on that bit you weren't supposed to. So, yes, there will be a video coming, but the intention was for it to come out before Expo. It's more likely to come out sometime after
Christmas.
Expo now. Christmas, yes.
After you've prized the minis out of the wall.
Yes. Yeah. Very quick review of the Army Painter paints. The dark and mid colours are very nice. Mm-hmm. I think slightly matte. A bit matter than GW, but not super matte like scale colour, if you're a proper paint nerd. The lighter colours, and the coverage, seems to be really good on the dark and medium colours. The speed paint, because it comes with a speed paint, it comes with like a dark blue speed paint because blue is the colour you're going to be painting the most. I actually think I prefer it to GW's contrast because it doesn't have that weird waxy finish that contrast paints have.
A lot of people have suggested the speed paints are better than the contrast paints. That is rumour circulating the industry.
It's weird. The contrast paints, right? You paint your miniature with it, and it looks like you've melted a crayon on top of it.
Oh, really?
This is really weird, like semi-gloss finished that looks waxy. It's the only way to describe it. It's like melted wax, that kind of sheen you get for that. Whereas the speed paint doesn't have that, which is quite interesting.
I wonder if it's a similar medium to what they use for their the shades, because I find Games Workshop shades, as nice as they are very, very shiny, and I really don't like their finish.
That's the new ones. I think the new ones have been formulated to be the same as contrast paints. I think that's part of that's the complaints I've heard as well. Anyway, back to the army painter. I don't like the white. Of all colours, I really don't like the white.
Is it a bit thin?
It's like toothpaste.
Wow. Okay.
I'm not kidding. It comes out of the bottle thick and gloopy, which means you've got to thin it down, and then it just seems to lose all coverage because you've thinned it down.
Right, okay.
And it's very weird. I don't know whether... I'm wondering whether I need to experiment with it a bit more and mix it to absolute oblivion first. But... yeah, my initial thoughts were it's like I'm supposed to be trying to paint with just this paint set and not use anything else by another company. And I'm trying to slap myself from not going from some other white paints that I've got in my collection that I trust better.
Pro Acryl.
Yes. I haven't tried that with the Pro Acryl Titanium.
Have you not?
I haven't tried it yet. I bought it. I haven't tried it.
Very good.
Oh, Andy's waving a miniature and it's white.
It is white. It's very good. The coverage on it's pretty good. It's not too thick, but it mixes well. It thins well. It's good gear. I can see why people like it.
I never knew there were such levels to geekdom. Like, I consider myself to be a geek, but then you guys have just ratcheted it up so much by geeking out about a white paint.
We've just gone further.
Sid's raising his hand. I've got to know what it is. What are you adding to this?
Sorry, I fell asleep. Rory, your voice won't be back up again. Something must have been happening beforehand.
This is important stuff, man. People have to know.
You guys get your geek on. Just give me a nudge when it's time to wait.
All right, then. I will swiftly change the subject then, Sid, to something which is just as geeky, right? Which I don't understand anything of, and as somebody pointed out, I've had to rejig the Polyhedron Collider website. So polyhedroncollider.com, which originally started as our little review blog, and since going 100% podcast, just seems to be a platform for us to say the latest episode is out. Apparently, I had malware on it.
Really?
Oh.
And I had no idea this was the case, and as far as I can work out, it's because I used a dodgy third-party theme that I downloaded from somewhere donkeys years ago. So I jettisoned the theme, and it worked. It disappeared.
Oh.
So unfortunately now polyhedroncollider.com looks really ugly because it's got a bog standard blogger template on it.
No.
And I've got no idea how to make it look vaguely pretty. Oh, Sid's got his hand up again.
We need to do what every other YouTuber does and get a sponsorship from Squarespace.
Yes.
Yes.
So Squarespace, if you're listening, please sponsor us.
Squarespace sponsorship.
I actually looked at potentially using Squarespace for my business, but I went with another provider. But they did.
We could have got you a 20% off code once we're sponsored. You should have waited.
Yeah, sorry. Yes, I'll next time I set up a business, I'll wait for you lot to get your arse in gear. No, I couldn't possibly help you out, Mr. Customer. No, Sid hasn't set me up with a discount code yet.
No, the show sponsor hasn't set you up.
Whatever.
Sorry, boys. I've got a segue. I've got to use it. One thing you won't have to use a discount code for is the Polyhedron Collider Live podcast at UK Games Expo, because it's not a ticketed event, so everyone's free and welcome to come along.
Because we couldn't even give the tickets away. That's why, Stephen.
Ruining the magic there, Sid.
Hey, look, I'm just bringing reality. I've been away for a few weeks, right? I've got a lot of stuff I need to get off my chest.
You've got a lot of pent-up ramshackle to get out.
I have noticed that you have been very quiet on the chats. Very quiet. Disturbingly so. I thought you were, like, dying or something.
Oh, no, I've been travelling the world.
You mean Fife?
Well, yeah, a bit of that. This is quite avant-garde, mate. They've got electricity last week. But yeah, it's nice to be back.
Glad to have you back, Sid. No, I was just being polite. I haven't got a segue.
Opinion.
Anyway, I was trying to talk about the podcast live at Expo.
Yeah, sorry, boss.
Pipe down, you. Yes, we will be live at UK Games Expo on Friday the 30th of May at 10:30. Venue to be determined. Future Steve here. We have been informed since recording that we are in Piazza for the Dice Room. Rory's checking his clipboard.
Nice. I'm going to put that on the list of things to do tomorrow.
Okay, right, okay.
Friday the 13th. That bodes well.
Friday the 30th.
Oh, the 30th. Of course it. Why would it be the 13th? Shut up, Andy.
I've double checked the date, Steve. Don't worry, it's fine.
Yeah.
I won't stop you posting the wrong one, though. Even though you've checked it.
Be 3 for 3, won't you, if you post the wrong one this year?
Yeah, it would be. Yeah. Confirm venue.
This has turned into a meeting. He's got actions.
Really
I've got 3 already. Yeah.
When do we get to AOB? Was that our podcast? It's just AOB. Do we get tea and biscuits served?
No. That comes afterwards. We've got the AOB first.
The only reason I come to these meetings is free biscuits.
Well, I'm going to tenuously drop my hat onto that comment and say Steve and I have got a very geeky meeting coming up in a few weeks that is geek board game related. Oh, no, but it's geek adjacent, isn't it?
It's not, it's geek adjacent. It's not board game related.
It's geek adjacent. Steve and I, hold on to your horses, we're going to a book signing and an author talk in a couple of weeks. Yeah. Joe Abercrombie's new book, The Devils, comes out, and I'm a big fan of Joe Abercrombie, so I've pre-ordered the book, booked the day off work so I can read it, and then booked tickets for me and Steve to go meet Mr. Abercrombie and get books signed by him.
Is he half of the outfit that makes nice jumpers?
No. He is a very quality Scottish-based writer of amazing grim dark fantasy.
Oh, I am not aware of his work.
He's writing about Fife also, clearly.
Grim. Yes, grim and dark, yes. All of his books are set in Leven.
No, he's done the Blade itself.
Blade itself is probably his biggest one, isn't it?
It's his biggest one, and I forget the name of that series, but yes, there's 9 books in that series in total, and they're all utterly fantastic with Logan 9 Fingers and just brilliant action-driven, character-driven stories. So if you fancy a really good book and you haven't read The Blade itself, start there and enjoy the next 9 books because they're a belting.
Well, I might look into that because I have a flight to and from Canada in the next 3 weeks, so that's plenty of opportunity to read something.
The audiobook's brilliant as well. Stephen Pacey does a fantastic job on the audiobook. So if you want to listen to it while you're just on it, yeah, brilliant. All over.
Noted.
But I think that's all we've got to talk about, boys. So shall we get on to talk about some actual board games?
Board games?
Board games on a board game podcast.
On a board game podcast.
Is that on the agenda? If it's not on the agenda, then it can't be brought to the meeting, I'm afraid.
It is on the agenda. We can't leave that to AOB, said it is like point 2 of the agenda.
It's not an emergency item.
No.
We joke, but Steve has literally just highlighted the next thing to talk about on the Google document.
I feel I might not be allowed back. That other joker that you had on last week might be here.
You can't exist in the same space.
No.
Right then.
If the two of you touch, then all of a sudden, like space collapses on itself. You know,
Is it like Time Cop? Yeah, it is.
Exactly.
God, that was a bad film.
Well, that's the only thing I remember from that film. And of course, he does the splits like
Same matter can't occupy the same space.
Yeah.
There is genuinely some actual physical reality to that. It's the only part of Time Cop that might actually be vaguely scientifically true.
Sorry, I can't link into that. So just to start describing the game, Rory.
Right, I'm going to start by talking about Flatiron from Ludo Nova. So this is designed by Llama Dice, the team known as Llama Dice. Actually, Shai S and Isra C, and this is a rather fantastic, rather brilliant. Not to share my thoughts on it too early. 2-player worker placement game where you will be working around this board, going to different action spots to try and build up a 3-dimensional version of the Flatiron building from New York. So you've got a tiny little board in front of you, which has got the 4 streets, and then you've got the 4 streets around the center, which form the central board upon which you will build the Flatiron. And you'll move your worker every turn. You have to move to a different spot, and then you have to take an action. And your action is either buy a card from that space, and then when you buy the card, you add it to the corresponding street on your board, or you trigger the street on your board. So you might have Broadway. So if you go to Broadway, you'll either buy a card or you'll trigger all of the cards that you can see. So when you buy a card, you can either take it to the top or the bottom, and you can trigger all of those actions. So it's a little bit like a kind of an action programming system as well here. And these will allow you to buy pillars, place pillars into the Flatiron, do it at a discounted rate, buy other cards, otherwise interact with the board, maybe get some money, because money's really tight in this game. And what you're trying to do, you need to get 3 pillars of different colours onto the board, and then you build another floor. Then you repeat this process, and each floor adds a new different twist to the rules. It changes it slightly, whether you might just get some money or a discount, or it'll put some conditions on what pillars can be placed. And you'll do this over and over again until you've built the roof, at which point the game immediately ends, and then you tot up your scores. Everyone's scoreboard is slightly different, so my Broadway will be different to your Broadway, and then we'll have the cards that go in there as well, and all the pillars are worth different points, but those are worth different points for different players as well. So that in the game, it's really simple, because it's a 2-player worker placement. You pick up your worker, you place it in a different location, buy a card, or put a card in your engine, and do the stuff. That's all there is to it. But it is an absolutely brilliant, very elegant game. So this is from the same designers that did the White Castle and Red Cathedral, and have scaled it right down to this really intricate, really clever, thought-provoking 2-player game. And if it sounds brilliant, it's because it is.
Now I've played it, I agree with Rory. It's very, very good.
Yes.
Very clever, I thought. I had one complaint.
Is it the one complaint that Sid also had?
I have a complaint.
Go on, let's Sid can go first.
Oh, no, I don't think we should start with our complaints. I think we should talk more about just how good this little game actually is. Yeah. Because it blends some really interesting mechanics together, with the chained actions and the as you build up your board or tableau in front of you with your different booster actions from the cards and everything else like that. It's really, really clever, really tactile as well, building up the little 3D.
It does look very cool on the table, doesn't it?
Yeah, as you say, because when you build the floors, you're actually putting the pillars in place to put the floor on top, and I just think it's really good.
It does that really wonderful thing. In a lot of worker placement games don't really work at 2 players. If you think about most 2-player games, you need some sort of automata to kind of do something else. But this is really good because you've only got 5 action spaces. You've got the 4 around the Flatiron itself. You've got City Hall, where you can pick up some bonus cards and do like a bonus action. But of course, your opponent's going to be in one of them. You're going to be in one of them. So you only have a choice of 3 of the things to go to. And as I quite often find that when I've got my tableau in front of me, I always seem to end up making one street particularly powerful, so I keep wanting to go back to that one. But for me to go back to that one, I have to leave it, and I have to not have you go there either when it's my turn next to move. Otherwise, I'm just kind of waiting. And it's that really interesting crunch of trying to spread everything out so that I can still do the actions I want to do and still have that variability within my strategy and within my turns.
You cannot focus on a single street in this game because you will waste actions not being there. And it's really clever. That's a really clever little mechanic.
And it also self-regulates a little bit because I had a pretty decent engine going on one of my street actions where I was basically doing the conversion that I'll get this, to get this, to get this, to get this, to sell this, to buy that, to put that down. And I did it once and Rory went, oh, that was good. And then when I did it the second time, he went, I need to go to that space just to stop you from doing that action.
But then all the cards are, because you're either going to use the top or the bottom of the card to slot it to the top or the bottom of your tableau. But the really powerful actions actually have a negative reputation. And then at the end of the game, you need to tot up your reputation for each street. And if your total reputation on 22nd Street is negative, you're actually going to lose points. If it's positive, you'll gain 3. Negative, you'll lose 5. And if it's neutral, it's 0. So yeah, if you want to make Fifth Avenue really, really powerful, do it. But it's going to lose you 5 points at the end of the game.
Or you have to pack positive.
Well, that's
weaker
because you can only ever
reputation
have
cards.
3 cards in total on any one street. So you're limited. If you've got 2 really good cards that are like -2, you're kind of stuffed. That one's always going to be negative now. So you need to kind of compensate by putting positive ones that are less good on your other streets, which means you're then spending money to buy cards to kind of compensate for that -5 you're going to pick up in the end game scoring. I think it's got a wonderful balance to it. Very, very clever game. But it's what I expected. It's what I expected from this design team, because I've been really impressed by everything they've churned out.
So should we now talk about...
Well, I was going to talk about a positive thing first.
Oh, okay.
We did say we've been making complaints a lot recently about how much room games take up. And this is relatively small footprint. You have a little player board, you have 2 worker placement slots, which of course this builds up. I thought for a footprint of the complexity of the game available, the footprint was just neat.
Yeah. I played this on a pub table last week, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
perfect.
It can work nicely on a pub table. I say that because it leads to my complaint, which I believe might be the same as Sid's.
Might be. But it's a design-related complaint. So
Right.
as we were talking about design.
So my complaint is the worker placement slots are around the main board. And as you play the board, you are building the Flatiron. So you're physically building something up.
So you can't see the other side of the board.
So you can't see the other side. So if you can't remember what the action space is on the other side, you have to keep poking your head round the board. Or at one point, I completely forgot the action space was there because I couldn't see it.
Yeah. Which leads into the other issue, Sid.
Which is that each card in the centre of them has a street written. That isn't the name of where that street comes from. That's not where that street, that's where you use the card. Not the street you're trying to go to. No.
Oh, yes.
No. The big, huge text, which is really obvious, and the only thing you can see when you're a short arse looking over the top of this little mini tower on a table, right, is obscured. No, but there's a huge, big word, so you think, oh, I'm going there. That's where I want to go. You can't go there, says Rory. Why not? You've just been to Broadway. I haven't gone to Broadway. I've gone to Fifth Avenue. What do you mean I've gone to Broadway? No, Sid, you're reading the wrong label again.
It's really frustrating. So the board has got the 4 streets, and I'll show it. I'll hold it up for you because I have it ready. You see how these are quite small. There it is. There.
That's 3 streets. It's a triangle.
No,
his hands come in the other
1, 2, 3, and then 4.
Right.
Anyway, there are 4
when you say
streets
street,
around.
you mean kind of corner.
They're the worker placement spots, and they get filled with cards because one of the things you can do is you can buy the card that's there to put into your tableau.
But that little bit on the board that names the street is really small. It's colourful, but really small. And on the card, it's really big. And the irritating thing is, on the card, when you buy the card, you're just immediately going to tuck that under something else and you'll never ever see it again. And it's a really annoying design quirk. It needed to be big and obvious on the board, and it doesn't need to be big and obvious on the card. In fact, because as Sid said, you'll be looking over, I want that card, and that's a Broadway card, but it's on 23rd Street. So I've got to go to 23rd Street to buy that card, and then I'll add it to my Broadway. But you get this, it's really easy, because when you're really deep into that thought, you're looking, and the big bright banner that's on the card draws your attention. You go, right, that's the card I want, so I'm going to go with that card. And it's really
makes sense. Yes,
okay. And it's a really annoying thing, but it's something that persists.
It's really annoying, but it kept happening because I think we played 2 games, didn't we?
Yes.
And it happened both times, and on both times it cost me an action, and you can't afford in a game as tight as this to give up an action or make a mistake like that. It's just it throws your whole thing out of whack because I'm sat there going, right, I'm going to do that next. You can't do that. And it's just like, well, yeah, it was almost flip the table territory on the second game for me, that one. And
because once
so
you even know
problem.
it's a problem, it doesn't stop it from being a problem still.
But it's because this game does what you just said. It pulls you in, it absorbs you, it immerses you in the game so well. And then when you got something like this, which just breaks that immersion so quickly, and it happens because you're immersed, it's frustrating as hell.
That's a really great way of thinking about it, actually. Yeah, you get so focused on the game, and then it breaks it.
Yeah.
But not all that being said, I still think it's a fantastic game, and I think it's ripe for somebody to 3D print some little signs that I can put up. Like clip onto the board, colour code them, and just have Broadway in, 22nd Street and stuff like that. And then that'd be really easy then. We can see them.
Well, the other thing I thought about after we played this game, and I was being a little bit ranty and unnecessary about it, as I am now, so I do apologise, was there's an even simpler solution to this problem. Play it on a coffee table.
So you're looking down on it.
So you're looking down on it.
Yeah.
As soon as you do that,
that solves both problems.
all of these problems will just go away.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So in fairness, right, it was one of those games that just, because of where we were sat, because of my table maybe, and I'm short, it was more of an issue for me. But I think just on a lower table, like a coffee table or something like that,
as soon as you look down,
it would be absolutely fine.
That's a good point, actually. It's an excuse to take it to a coffee shop tomorrow and try it, actually.
There you go, mate. You need
I
to
do
do
know
some
I need
user
to do
experience testing.
A recon. I know just the place that does fantastic cake as well, actually. So that works. Thank you. But that was Flatiron from Ludo Nova. It comes with 2 thumbs up. I strongly recommend it if you can just get past this little graphic design quirk.
Play on a coffee table.
Play it on a coffee table. Yeah, do it. Wow. It's a brilliant solution, Sid. Brilliant solution.
Yeah. Well, let's see if you can engineer the problem out of this next one.
Well, you're going into this one nice and positive then, Mr. Sheila.
Well, I'm going to put my cards out here. I wanted this game to be much more enjoyable than it is because I'm desperate for a game which follows this theme. So we are talking about Rock Hard 1977, and we mentioned this on our our Essen preview a few months back. And the thing that strikes you straight away with this game is the player boards are little Marshall amplifiers, and the dials for keeping track of various resources are the knobs on the amplifiers, and they all go up to 11.
This is basically Spinal Tap, the board game. It really is. Yeah. With a little bit of Joan Jett mixed in.
Yeah. So this is a game about being a band in the 70s. Again, it's a worker placement game, and it follows the basic process of trying to become a famous rock star. You'll record a demo tape. You'll go to parties to try and get your fame up. You'll go do gigs. You'll then try and get a record deal.
Whilst trying to hold down a job as a legal secretary.
Yep.
I was going to say, I was a cleaner, I think, on my job.
Bartender.
I was going to come to that. Bartender. Also, you can hire roadies, you can do practicing. Every single worker placement spot in this game makes perfect sense, possibly with the exception of the stuff you do in the evening, which is a bit abstract, I think. But
yes.
Everything makes sense. There's things you need to do to stepping stones to go up. As you've all alluded to, one of the little kind of interesting quirks is when you start off, you of course have a regular job, but you're also paying for a manager. So you've got to pay your manager regularly, and you need to earn money. So at the beginning of the game, you're not going to be earning money from record sales, so you have to do your job. This is actually, I think, one of the really clever things in this is the worker placement spots are broken down into day, evening, and night. And your job will take part in one of those 3 things, which means you can't go do the actions during that section. Like, I think record a demo tape is a day action.
No, it's an after-hours thing.
It's an after-hours when it's record demo tape. I can't remember which way it is, but certain actions become more difficult because early in the game, you have this dilemma of, do I do that for the money so I can actually pay my manager, or do I do it to keep going forward and carrying on the job?
And if you can miss your job, you can miss going to work twice, but on the 3rd time you get fired.
Yes.
And that's it. You're then unemployed and you can't get another job for the rest of the game. Yeah.
I really liked that. It was a really cool, I thought it was an interesting mechanic and made an interesting decision about that balance between getting the money and doing the actions. There's also an aspect of the game which is intriguing, which has obviously been changed to make rock and roll look more palatable with the general board gaming populace, which is you can use candy. You can have a sugar rush, which gets you extra actions. It's not obviously not nose candy or Bolivian marching powder or anything like that. No, it's just
Bolivian marching powder.
No, this is just sweets.
Just sweets.
Wrapped up
Werther's
candy
original,
sweets.
yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
Werther's
That's
original,
what rock was made with.
They do
humbug.
look like little pink Werther's originals, don't they? Because the component is a cardboard little sweet. It's brilliant.
Soft candy, most of it, isn't it? Yes. So
And these actually give you basically allow you to double your actions in a round.
possibly triple.
Well, there's
things
two
like that,
types of
triple.
candy, isn't there? There's soft candy. Oh, there's three types: soft candy and hard candy, and sugar-free
sugar-free,
candy. as they're
yeah.
called.
Yeah.
So sugar-free candy gives you no Brucey bonus because you just got some cheap stuff off the boy.
You've got icing sugar, basically, haven't you?
And you got your soft stuff, which is your kind of your chewy jelly tot.
Yeah, gives you
And
one
your
extra
real
action.
Matured Werther's original is your hard candy, which gives you two extra goes.
Two extra actions. But every time you take candy, because you draw this from a deck of cards, and the deck of cards only refreshes at the end of the entire round. So I know that if Andy draws the soft candy, I know there are no more soft candies in that deck. That everything else is a guaranteed bonus. So then I'll draw a card and I'll get my bonus. It's great. But when I get my sugar bonus, my sugar craving increases, and I have to increase my sugar craving dial, and I then have to roll a die. And if I roll under my sugar craving, I then have a sugar shock, and I have to go into a sugar crash. Sorry, and then I have to recover the following morning. It's brilliant. I mean, it's brilliant, and it's so much fun doing that. It's just so silly, and it's so on the nose. No pun intended. It's right. And everybody it's such a knowing nod, and it's really, really good fun to just see that happening at the table, and everyone has
I will
fun with it.
admit, the theme of the game really carries it. It's really well implemented from that point of view. It's got all of the aspects of it. It all feels like you're going through that kind of motion of making the band and stuff like that. So from a thematic point of view, it is excellent.
It's very rightly nominated for a Golden Geek in Best Thematic Game of 24, because it's the theme. It's just so much fun. Like all the cards you get. So, do you want to talk about the after-hour clubbing and stuff, Steve?
No, you talk about the after-hour clubbing, because I kind of I switched off a little bit with this, because it is the least thematic part of the game, really. Well, it is and it isn't.
So if you think about watching Spinal Tap when they were in the recuperation lounge afterwards, money talks and bullshit walks, things like that. They're always there talking about it, And I think there's no need to make a big thing of it. No, I think somebody should have made a big thing of it, because an on-stage prop was in very real danger of being demolished by a dwarf.
So after your gig, you can go to an after-hours spot, and these are all the different nightclubs and various bars and stuff that are open after hours. And you go to one of these places, and that you will draw a card from this deck, and it will have some interesting, fun text on it that will normally lead to a bit of laughter around the table, and it might give you some sort of perk. So you might get an extra song, or you might get some more candy, or some more money, or increase your reputation, or it will give you a little bonus, a little Brucey bonus. But you're also trying to collect these cards. There's a set collection aspect to the game. So if you get 4 of the same cards, you can cash those in for points, or if you get 4 different cards, you can cash those in for points as well. And then also you've got like some objectives that you get given at the beginning of the game that normally rely on a combination of those cards. So I can see what Steve means. It's the least thematic part, because you just want to go and party, but they've turned that partying into this set collection, and you're trying to jump around the board and get these cards. And they come, but they're a lot of fun. You meet a girl in the club, and you've got the choice of, you can either write a love song and get an extra song, or you can do something naughty and increase your reputation, right? And it's stuff like that, and you're like, exactly what's going on here, what they're not saying. I think the joy of this game is everything that's not written down, everything that's not there, and it's all in your head, and you know exactly what's going on, and that's where the fun of this game comes from. But ultimately, you're also just picking up a red card.
Now, here's a question. Is that... Now, you've said that, obviously, yeah, it is. What's not said is actually probably the more telling part of the game. Now, the question is that because we're old enough to know that? Do you think youngsters these days might not quite get it?
But the theme of this game will make no sense to them anyway.
I guess that's kind of what
such an alien concept to anybody that doesn't already understand this theme.
It's a good point.
I guess that's kind of what I'm driving at, yes.
Are a bunch of 18-year-olds going to pick up this game?
No, because they're too busy to listen to Billie Eilish and other shit.
No. But even if they were even if they were 18-year-old board gamers, are they going to pick this up? Are they going to is it going to resonate with 18-year-old board gamers the same way it resonates with us?
I don't know, because I think at this point we need to talk about the actual mechanics of the game.
Yeah.
That's a good segue, Rory, intentional or otherwise.
It wasn't intentional.
I know. I feel it is simplistic in terms of mechanical design.
I think we can just stop there.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's not. I mean, it's obviously the opposite end of the spectrum to something like a Lacerda, but that doesn't necessarily mean it is bad by that virtue. But it does feel a bit wasted at times, especially further through the game. The day actions definitely become much less used, because once you've got a record deal, once you've got some promotion going, you don't really need the daytime action. So you kind of think a third of the game is kind of missing.
Well, I'd argue that it's not necessary because I think going to the day actions, you're still going to want to go pick up roadies, because you need lots of roadies to perform the big gigs. What I'd say that it's actually very linear. Once you've got to a certain point, once you've got your record deal, and once you've got enough songs and once everything's at a nice level, actually, everybody just needs more roadies, because to play the bigger...
three.
Yeah, but that's it. But to your first time in the daytime, you only need 3. But the first time you did daytime actions, you're going to be juggling your job, you're going to be doing your interviews, you're going to be getting your record deal. There are other things to do. But when it comes to mid game, I suppose you're right. But I find it's just very linear. I think it's just a very linear game. In that, what everybody's doing the same thing at the same time at the same speed.
Yes.
And there's not a lot of variation in how you're all going to try and achieve the same thing.
I found that quite frustrating, actually, when I was trying to record a demo tape. I didn't record a demo tape until about round 7.
Wow.
Because I was playing a 5-player game.
Yeah.
And everyone kept going to get the demo tape. So I couldn't get in there because I had like $3 rather than $4. So somebody bagged the $3 spot. I didn't have quite enough money to record it, so I had to wait till the next time. And then somebody else beat me to it. And somebody else beat me. I could still play the game, but it was starting to get on my tits a little.
But that is I say a significant problem with this game. There are certain action spaces in a worker placement game that you only need once.
Yeah,
and it's a need. You need a demo tape. And if you're not player one, if first game of this, if you're player one, you go get a demo tape. And then after that, you never need to go to that space again. So then everybody else around the table is then vying to become player one for the next round, and they'll just go and do it.
That's exactly what happened in our game. There was literally the first player every time just went and did the demo tape. Now, that's fine. You've got to control the game to get first player to go and get it done. But you're right. It's a whacking great space on the board that you only ever use once. Yeah. I think better design would have been mix the kind of the practice session bit with the record demo tape bit, and you choose which output of that spot you wanted. You could either increase your chops or record a demo tape. That way, that spot's always being used.
Yeah, maybe. Or just have recording the demo tape available during the day as well, but maybe it costs more during the day.
I never understood thematically why it was after hours.
Because it's empty. The studio is empty.
Yeah, but so's the recording studio. You can use that during the day or the night. It made no sense to me.
That's it. It's a very linear game, and I think it's quite prescribed about what you're trying to do, when you're trying to do it, how you're trying to do it. And it just becomes a little bit of a race, as we'd all argue that all games are, but it becomes a little bit of a race. But whoever just happens to be player one for the first round is given this huge benefit that they'll just go and do the thing first. And as soon as they are first, they're going to continue being first for a while. They'll be the first person to get a record deal, probably. They'll be the first person to play a big gig. You know, because then everything after that is just kind of, you know, like there's the set collection stuff. It's kind of tertiary. It is. It's kind of tertiary to everything else. But I've had enormous fun playing this game every time I've played it. I haven't necessarily enjoyed it, like mechanically, strategically, tactically, but I've had a bloody good laugh.
This game for me, right? No, I feel we're being a bit of a ragging on this, right? And I don't think it deserves it, because I think this game does something really important. It's a game that is on your shelf that you can bring out and do exactly what you said. You can have fun, and you can have fun with different people.
Yeah.
You're not going to bring this game out for the same group of people to optimize it and beat it. No way. That's not what it's for. It's a really accessible game. The theme is mint, frankly. I think it is possibly the most best and accurately themed game I feel I've played. And that, put some nice music on that's, you know, appropriate for the game.
Yeah.
And put it out on the table with a bunch of random folk or having a beer or two as well. It's good fun. And for that reason alone, it deserves a spot on a shelf, in my opinion.
It is in a fairly small minority where I think theme and mechanics actually do work well together.
Yes.
Especially for a mostly Euro. I mean, there's a few packs of decks of cards and there's a die in it, so it's not 100% Euro, but it's close enough. And it does work quite well from that point of view.
Rory and I played this with Sue, and she had a whale of a time.
Yeah.
She was drawn right into the theme, totally immersed, really enjoying it. And I think for me, you need games like that lying around.
Yeah.
Because there is every now and then why do I watch Expendables 4? It's not for the fucking script writing, is it? Right? It's because it's just unadulterated, unapologetic fun.
It's a really good point.
And for that reason, this game for me it's great at what it's doing.
Yeah.
But it isn't a game you're going to try and optimize, replay, and win and beat it. You're kind of going to play it.
Yeah.
That's it.
It's rock and roll, baby. Rock and roll. I do want to loop back though and talk about the production quality of this game. It is amazing.
It's fantastic.
We've talked about the little acrylic knobs, and we've talked about the amplifiers. All the players are all little acrylic standees with these lovely stickers.
They were really nice, actually. Yeah, the acrylic side of things is really lovely.
The turn markers are plectrums, which are cool. Yep. But my hands down favourite part of this is the money. The money, wow. it's all $1, $5, and $10 bills, but and
they look real.
They look real.
I reckon you could get away in a dirty rock nightclub in New York. You could get away with spending these.
Maybe you could.
I reckon you could.
Maybe you could, but they've got the right feel, don't they? They don't feel like paper. They don't feel like fake money. It looks real. It feels real, and they've all been. A lot of them have had graffiti on them. Yeah. Where people have just written stuff down. It's so tactile, this game, and I think that helps with the immersion, and that helps draw you into that fun and into that feeling of being in a rock band in 1977.
That there is one problem with the production.
Are you going to say the sweets aren't real, or that the sweets aren't cocaine?
No, I made my peace with that. We all know what they are. Let's accept that for what it is. But no, it's the knobs. It's the knobs on the amps.
They're quite slippy.
Yes, they're a little bit too wee for people with pig tits for hands.
That's true. Yes, yeah. For those of you with fingers like pig's tits, yes, it's true. They work quite fiddly.
They're just not enough to get hold of to give a nice, smooth turning action. It's almost like they need a little bit of, a little bit of an adjustment, a little washer grease under there or something, just to lift it off.
Yeah,
bring it round. But no, it is. I think this is an excellent game. And I think you're all right, though. I think it isn't going to win Complexity of the Year. And it shouldn't. But I think it's fantastic.
No. When Steve and I first played this, Steve likened it to Age of Comics, which is another worker placement game that arguably is also quite linear. But I really love that. I love that because it's a theme. I love that because of the theme, and the theme is really close to me. But I can see similarities in there. It's not the most strategic and tactical of games, but it's bloody good fun. It is. You're right. I've had fun playing it, and everyone's had a really good. I can't think of another game where I've had a group of people like properly belly laughing at the cards. And I played this at a club in Leamington where 2 people I'd never met before, and the 4 of us were just having a proper laugh at some of these cards and some of the stuff that was coming up. And that was a great experience to have with complete strangers.
The number of Spinal Tap quotes going around in our game was quite superb.
And that's not a bad thing at all, is it?
Oh, not at all. It was great fun. It was. I think I'd say that this is actually a reasonably decent gateway game because it's not complicated. It's literally pick one thing, because it's not as if you've got an army of meeples that you need to decide exactly what you're going to do in order. You've got 3 things to do during that one particular day, and it's broken into 3 bits, so it ain't complicated.
And it's quite obvious what it is, something you can easily relate to as well, isn't it? It's not like Agricola, where you're farming in the Dark Ages. You're a rock band.
No, exactly.
So the more we talk about it, the more it sounds like we're all siding with Sid, is that this is a bloody great game at what it does. And what it does is take the piss out of rock bands and makes you laugh.
Even if the design is mechanically a bit shonky.
It's straightforward.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But shonky.
No, I don't think it's broken. Shonky implies it's broken.
I
don't think
I think
it's broken.
it needs a few of its corners knocked off. It could have been streamlined a little better, I think, to make it less linear.
Yeah.
But other than that, it was fun.
So that was Rock Hard 1977 from De Vere Games.
Right then, we're going to take a complete. There's no way I can segue this together.
Well, you say that. You say.
Oh, here he comes.
Something else that was rock hard, because we kept getting the shit kicked out of us, was the recent RPG.
That'll do.
I was terrified about where you were going with that.
That's because you've got a dirty mind, Mr. Gill.
Oh, it's in the gutter, mate.
Oh, aye. But this was Candela Obscura. I don't know who publishes it, so someone will have to fill me in on that.
Darrington Press.
Darrington Press, that's it. I remember now.
So they do a couple of board games and they do a few RPGs. And Candela Obscura came out, I think, about 18 months ago now. We got given a copy at Expo, and we have recently been playing for a couple of assignments in this game. Candela Obscura, it's kind of Victorian steampunk setting.
Big spoon of Lovecraft mixed in.
Everyone says, yeah, Lovecraftian, but I'm not entirely sure Lovecraftian is quite right. But there's an otherworldly enemy coming in, and you are part of the Candela Obscura, which is like a group which is set up to fight investigate and battle or fight this otherworldly entities that are coming in. And basically, the entities can take any kind of form. It's any kind of ghost, scribbly, monster, anything you want to kind of come up with. And to link it to another RPG, it's almost like Victorian Delta Green, because no one in this, albeit fantasy world, knows of the existence of magic or the Gribblies in this other dimension, and so you are secretly trying to stop this kind of thing. Mechanically, it's based on, I would say, almost a stripped down version of Blades in the Dark.
I'll agree.
So you have a number of dice that you roll, d6s. The more skills you have, the more dice you roll, and then you pick your best result. So if you've got a 6, it's a success. 4 or 5, it's a mixed success. 1 to 3, it's a failure. So the more dice you have, of course, the more you can roll. If you roll a double 6, it's a critical success. Where this game becomes interesting is you also have a gilded die. So one of your abilities, you basically can use a resource to add an extra dice into one of your skill checks, which you're going to want to do. If you use a gilded die, which is generally one of your skills, your speciality, and you choose to take the success of that gilded die rather than your best die, you will regain one of these points back, allowing you to spend more dice later on. which I think comes up with one of the more interesting kind of conundrums in the game, where you kind of go, right, I'm bingo on resources, I kind of want more extra dice. I've just rolled my gilded dice and it's come up a 3 or a 2, and you're like, well, I can either take the failure but get a resource back, or I can take the success, which means I won't recoup any more resources, which I think is pretty cool.
So is the gilded die still a normal D6?
Yes.
If you're playing in person, then it is suggested that you have 2 different coloured dice, and your gilded dice, you take a different colour for this.
Right, so I could still roll a normal success on my gilded die.
Yes, you could,
and if I use that one, then great. Okay.
You get it back
then
as well.
you get your resources
And
back.
I see what you mean. So but if I fail on my gilded die, I could take the hit and the failure, but then gain a resource because I use it. Cool.
Which I think is really clever because it can encourage some really interesting narrative play.
Yes, it did.
Because that resource can be quite important, and you may give up a mixed success for a less good result, but on a gilded die.
And what resource are we talking about here, just so I'm clear?
Essentially, additional dice to your dice pool.
Yeah, there are 3 categories of stat, basically, and each category has like an overarching set.
Drives, I think, is the term.
Drives, that's right. And you can have a number of, I think it's up to 3 blobs in each of these drives, and you can spend a blob to add a die to a roll. So if you have a gilded die, you get a blob back, basically. So
cool.
It's give you more chance of rolling a decent number. Increase your dice pool.
Yeah, cool.
So if you're doing a skill check, you'll say to the GM, I'm going to spend a drive to do that. Another player can spend a drive to assist you, which then adds an extra die, which is quite useful. So drives are really quite a useful resource and come up quite a lot. You end up spending them quite a bit. The other thing, and I kind of want to shift gears quite quickly here, is the way this is presented from a GM's point of view. So just like Blades in the Dark, as a GM, you will never roll a dice in this game. Everything is based on the player's actions. So let's say, for instance, there's a fight. You will never roll to say what the baddie does. You will just base the baddie's attack on what the players do. So if you get into fisticuffs with a ruffian on the street, and, I don't know, Sid rolls a 6, well, he's punched the ruffian and knocked him out, something like that. But if Sid rolls a 1, then he's missed, and the ruffian jabs him in the ribs and breaks a rib or something like that. So there's 2 things going on here. It means the GM doesn't ever roll any dice, so everything is based on the player's actions. Again, Blades in the Dark does something similar. But similarly, it also requires the GM to think of a lot of things here. Either you have to decide what the failure is going to be, and annoyingly, which is the one I find most difficult, you have to decide what the mixed success is going to be. So this is this fail forward concept where you do what you want to do, but it comes at a cost. And to keep the game more interesting as a GM, you need to think up more things for that. However, from my point of view as a GM, the way the assignments in this game were structured, I found almost liberating. So there is a standalone quick start, which we ran first, which is, I would say, a bit more fleshed out. And then in the main rule book, there's about 10 to 12, I hate to call them seeds, but they're kind of layouts of an assignment. And they're only 2 pages in the rule book. And basically what it does is it sets out the NPCs, tells you what is going on, and then structures the assignment. It's got a set structure, which is like exploration. You've got a setup, an exploration, and then things ramping up and a finale. And the description of those sections might only be 2 sentences.
Wow.
But that could be an entire session of play.
I mean, we should probably talk a bit more about the assignments, because this is a much more kind of investigative, or the assignments we've played are very much more investigative, more puzzle. No, puzzle solving is probably not the right word. It's a mystery. It's like trying to solve a Scooby-Doo mystery.
That's a good explanation. Sid. Yeah, you're all being given some kind of assignment. Now, it does suggest there can be more interesting assignments where you might have to infiltrate an enemy base or get something, get an artifact from one place to another. But the majority of ones are going to be something has happened. Like, we're not spoiling things. I can say what the first 2 kind of setups are. We did the quick start, which is about a woman in a show wears a luminous green dress, and it basically melts her in front of everyone. So you're investigating what happened to her. Another one involves a camera which appears to bring people back from the dead. And so they're all very investigative. You've all got this like problem you need to look at and be subtle about it, not just running guns blazing, as it were, and investigate and speak to people and solve the mystery of this assignment. And we found we played it in about 2 sessions, and we played for about 2.5, 3 hours, don't we?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we found 2 sessions of assignment seemed to be quite a nice little, just about the right cadence, I thought. I think we could expand it on bigger assignments. We could make bigger and more complicated assignments, which could be longer. But I felt they felt like the right kind of pace.
Yes.
So you're not lingering. You're not spending weeks playing this, doing a dungeon crawl or something like that. It's relatively short and sharp. And the way they're written means it's really easy to keep them moving as well. Keep the players moving, keep the action moving, keep everything at a nice, good pace, so people weren't getting bored. You look confused, Rory.
I'm just, yeah.
That's just his face.
When at the top of this, when we started talking about it, you mentioned Cthulhu and that there's this otherworldly menace and horror that's coming into the story, and that you have to act. And I made notes here: Victorian steampunk Men in Black, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not getting. Yeah, I'm not getting where that otherworldly menace and horror comes into these investigations. And I was like, how can you tell me that without giving away any of the story?
Well, that's the point. It's subtle. You don't. That's the thing. You kind of discover that as you go along. So as Steve says, the introductory adventure, this is about as spoiler free as we can make it, because this is literally the very first thing you see in the first game. So this isn't going to ruin anything, is this lassie in green dress. But the very nature of the dress is what's otherworldly. You know, she literally wears this garment and it just devours her completely. So nobody really understands why or how. And the part of that is that by investigating this item, it leads you to see more and more things. Okay. And it's that aspect of it that is the otherworldly bit. I say it's Lovecraftian. Steve's right. It's not Lovecraftian in the sort of traditional sense. It's Lovecraftian in the sense that it's subtle horror or subtle invasion rather than over, guns blazing. There's a demon to punch in the face like there is in D&D. It's a lot more subtle, a lot more, I'm going to say slower paced, but it's not in your face. There's only elements of this, and you're trying to poke not so much the game, but also the mythos to try to learn more about the other side. And the more you play the game, the more you learn about it. But even then, it's only snippets.
So I think the way I would describe this to somebody is, you remember when X-Files started?
Yeah.
Yes.
If you can cast your minds back to that. It was very small, single episode plots.
Monster of the Week,
Monster of the Week, right? As it got further into season 2, season 3, there was more of a long arc, a long plot starting to creep in. And to me, that's exactly where Candela Obscura is going. So you start the game really quite simple, Monster of the Week, bash something on the head.
Your Scooby-Doo stuff, like you said.
You're Scooby-Dooing it. But then slowly you start, as players, start to learn about the bigger mystery, the bigger plot. And these little things that were standalone events start creeping into something that actually makes a much more
you're creating a tapestry of this story. Okay.
Yeah.
A tapestry with a lot of holes in, but yes. Very moth-eaten tapestry.
But if you're lucky, you may also have a character that's seen a couple of these things. But, it's another one of these games, though, where I think you will have... We haven't really talked about the characters and stuff like that, but I think it's a game where you will have more churn of characters and more characters that might sit a couple of games out, and you'll bring in another character that you've got in play because one of them's gone a bit loopy or something and needs a couple of days at the retreat to come back into it.
Is that a mechanical thing? Because you mentioned Delta Green, and not knowing a great deal of it, but I know Delta Green is a game where you as a player can go crazy and die. Mm-hmm. So is that a mechanic within Candela Obscura that you do need to then rest the character and then you bring a new one in?
I would say one massive thing, actually, the game makes a point in the rulebook of saying we don't have madness mechanics. So you don't go crazy in the traditional Call of Cthulhu sense.
No. Okay.
It makes a big deal about not putting noses mechanics in the game. What you do instead is you take damage, and you basically have everything's in threes in this game. You have 3 groups of stats, and you have 3 groups of hit points, effectively, which are your body, your mind, and this like bleed. And bleed covers your ability to absorb this otherworldly weird shit. And if you take too much damage in something, you don't like lose stats. You have to change your character based on the damage you've taken, and say how that damage has affected you as a character. And you don't. What you do is you basically like lower one stat and raise another. It's just a simple thing, but what you're saying is you provide the story how those events have changed your character.
So, give you an example. So, I had a character who poked bleed quite hard. Yeah, so I was poking at this veil quite hard.
She went at it with a bat. Yeah.
Yeah, basically. Bad things happened, and I ended up taking a lot of damage, which caused me to take these scars, which effectively what Steve says is you end up with some change in your character overall. So I changed my character to go blind.
Cool.
Right? Which then let me increase my ability to contact the paranormal more, because I'd lost a sense, so I made another sense better.
Right.
And that really morphs your character and evolves your character in a really clever narrative way, which I think is rare in a lot of RPGs.
That
You
does
just went
sound
full
quite
Daredevil,
wonderful.
didn't you?
But I think it encourages it, and I think that's one of the things that one of the things I think is really good about this game, is how much it encourages the narration in a way which is more friendly and more cooperative, and just generally a bit. You feel a lot better in this game than you do playing Cthulhu, right? Which is why I don't think the Lovecraftian thing's a fair comparison. It's the wrong way to think about it, because I think Cthulhuism and Lovecraftian lore and the game styles of Call of Cthulhu, it's the wrong thing to compare this game to. It'll put some folk off.
I think actually the closest comparison that kept knocking at me all the way through was actually Vaesen. I think the rules are a little lighter than Vaesen, but not much. They're both in Victorian times. They're all, well, kind of. This is its own setting. At least Vaesen's in our world in kind of Victorian times, but this is its own setting. But Vaesen also has this similar kind of no one really knows about the Gribblies that are out there. And the major difference is really some subtleties in theme. Vaesen is about the new industry world encroaching on the old world, whereas this is more about something unexplained encroaching on our world.
Yes.
It's almost like a secret war. It's almost like a secret war going on. I think Men in Black is not a bad analogy. You know, you're trying to do something that no one else really knows about.
And you just mentioned about how it's simpler than Vaesen. This sounds like it might be quite a simple thing to introduce to new people RPGing. Would you say that's accurate?
I would say to pull back to what Sid said earlier, it's very much a story-first game.
Right.
It's not, your character sheet has, I don't know, at the very beginning, 9 stats, which are just blobs, which range from 1 to 3, which is how much dice you roll, and you'll have a couple of special skills. And I mean a couple at the beginning. You might get some more as you advance, but that's it at the beginning. It's not like D&D where you're going to have like a character sheet as long as your arm with 20 skills you've got to memorise.
Yeah.
From an entry point of view, I think it's a really good thing to start with, because it as I said, it's story first. You just say what you want to do and off we go. You don't have to worry too much about learning the rules.
Yeah.
And the DM's doing a shitload of the heavy lifting for you.
Yes.
But isn't the GM doing a shitload of heavy lifting in a normal RPG as well?
No, because you can fall back on the rules mechanics. You can fall back on the monster hits with this. The dice tell you what's going to happen. The dice here don't tell the GM what's going to happen. The GM has to decide if you roll a 4 and get half a success, he might let you go, right, you've taken that monster out, but you broke your weapon. So he's got to keep thinking of new things that happen in that mixed success. And often, the mixed successes are what come up. You know, you're not rolling sixes every roll.
No, of course.
You're not rolling ones every roll. You can be in that middle ground most of the time. You're getting fours and fives and stuff like that. And I think what we found in our games is, as we were maybe a bit more seasoned in playing, quite often we were offering Steve what might go wrong, how our characters might fluff it or not quite succeed, or, you know, like it became part of the story. So, you know, my character's running up the stairs, and I roll a 4 or I roll a 4 or something, I'm going to hit something, I'm running up the stairs to do it, I get a 4, I get a half a success. Okay, Steve, I'm running up the stairs, I stand on my dress, I manage to clobber the monster, but I fall down and take some damage.
Yeah.
So the narrative that we are telling starts to become the resolution of success. And really the GM then is making a choice on, will I buy that? Does that feel adequate? Is that a bad enough problem or a good enough problem?
So you can, as you get more experienced and more into the flow of it, you can almost start sharing that controlling narrative. And then the GM is more of an editor then, rather than the narrator.
Yeah, it's just the players start to have a better idea of what they think would be suitable.
Yeah.
You know, and the GM's, it's GM's choice in the end. But as said, just like Blades in the Dark, it does put a lot of pressure on the GM to think of these things often.
So I think by throwing those prompts, it helps. So throwing the prompts in, it kind of gives I find it that you start to have a discussion. Yeah, it's more of a discussion. Going. Somebody else might pipe in and go, oh, maybe this happens, or maybe you fall into me and that ruins my next move, or I get a handicap on my next move because you've fallen onto me. You know, it starts to become this conversation. This story starts being told.
A collaborative
around the table.
story. So for that reason, would you think you'd want a more experienced GM to handle this, or do you think a newbie GM can do it?
I think you get different experiences.
Yeah.
I think if you got a bunch of folk around the table with a quick start in this game, I think it's brilliant. I think it'd be a great introduction. It wouldn't maybe have quite the flair, quite the flow, the ease of flow perhaps, and things like that. But on the other hand, you're going to have a hell of a good time because it's so accessible. And I think as you then evolve and grow with the system, and you might start going in more into it, you watch a few videos. We'll come back to the videos in a minute. That's something we can't ignore.
True.
That. But you might start watching a few videos, and then you start growing more into that character, and you'll evolve. So I think this is a game which works not only as an introduction, but you get a hell of a lot out of it if you're very seasoned and experienced as well.
Oh, brilliant.
I found it very Moorish, actually.
Yes.
It was very compelling. It did.
That.
I know. I mean, while we're on the subject of Bolivian nose powder.
That was an hour ago, Andy.
I know, but, you know, I'm coming down now. Yeah. I did find it very Moorish in the sense that I wanted to understand the mystery a lot more. I wanted to poke the mystery. I wanted to get to the end of the story and play some more to see where it was going to go. Like you, Rory, I like a good story. So from that point of view, it was very compelling, very interesting, and the way that everyone played the game very, very differently made it quite entertaining because the actions of the players very much shape the game. Rather than be told, right, you're in a room, you know, Gandalf exited to the north, what do you want to do? It's not like that at all. It is literally, right, this has now happened, throw down. And it was literally, as Sid says, up to the players to decide pretty much what happens, how it happens, when it happens. And the only thing that was really involved dice rolling wise was if we tried to do something completely outlandish, which was frequently, at which point, you know, how much of a kicking are you going to take for doing something dumb? And that was it. The rest of it was all just spoken word. It was really good fun.
The one criticism I do actually have of this game, which is, it's the one aspect where the rules aren't clear, is how much damage I'm supposed to be dishing out to you guys. I felt that, because what somebody commented, they've never felt like they were under threat. I mean, even though Sid's character was actually hanging on by a thread several times.
That was more the player. That was the problem.
There was nothing, you know, you play D&D, for instance, and D&D is very prescribed. You know, you're at level 1, you play a CR quarter monster, which does this much damage each round, which means you should do this much damage in a fight, that kind of thing. And I know I don't want something that prescribed, but I felt as if it could done with something that says, right, you really should be dishing out, like, over a 3-hour session, this many points of bleed or this many points of damage. players can resist it, players can do things to stop taking damage, but it just felt like it was missing that kind of just a rough figure that would have pointed me in the right direction.
Almost like what Frank asked last time we spoke was, how many what's a good score in a game? It's almost the opposite of that. Yeah. How much is a lot of damage? Is 1 point of damage a lot? Is that like a broken leg, or is it, you've just been sort of tittled with a feather? That kind of thing. Yeah, sure.
And I understand that ideally the players want to do, you as a GM want to tweak that for your players so your players get what they want. Do they want to feel like superheroes, or do they want to play a really gritty setting when they know they're going to die? That's fine, but I feel as if just a paragraph with that in would have just made my life a bit easier. That was all. And that, weirdly, I've seen some other reviews of this game which slate it for some very bizarre reasons, but...
Because I think this is an excellent game, and I think that leads me on to a massive apology from me.
Oh,
because
Sid's apology corner.
When I heard about this game about a year and a half ago, I was looking forward to it. I thought it was going to be amazing, right? Darrington Press's Critical Role's printing arm, basically, publishing arm or whatever they call it. And therefore, they have all the Critical Role people doing live action play of this game. As they're one of the foremost videos you will find of people playing this game are Critical Role. Okay? And in my opinion, they made me hate this game. And unfortunately...
It's not just your opinion, Sid.
Is it not?
No.
They made the game come across to me like nothing that we have just spoken about. Almost the complete opposite. I found the way that it was presented in those videos quite dull, quite stagnant, quite uninteresting. Stodgy. It was all the things I don't want to do playing an RPG. And I had to be cajoled a little bit. And it was only that conversation that we had at UK Games Expo with the Darrington Press staff, which encouraged me to play this game. And they were so right in telling me I was wrong. And I give them full credit for that, because this game blew my socks off. But don't use Critical Role's play of it to set the scene for you.
To put it into context, and then this is our players, we had Sid trying to dig up graves to communicate with the souls, while at the same time Andy was trying to blow up a jail with explosives he was brewing in his back pocket.
Successfully, I might add.
In the same time of the adventure, at the same time, John's character was trying to steal a diary off a drunk guy at the pub. This gives you an idea of the kind of game we were playing.
Wow. Okay. I love it.
So yes.
Yeah.
I was very impressed by this. As I said, I was with you, Sid. I listened to some of this on podcasting when I'm driving and walking the dog, and I was like, oh God, what have I let myself in for? Surely it can't be this bad. And then, as I've mentioned, I watched a couple of reviews on YouTube of people playing this, and they must have played a different game to us.
Yeah.
Because we quite literally had a lot of fun, and everyone said, are we going to play this again? And the only reason we haven't is because we've got other stuff to play. Mm. And I could have span up another... because the way it's written, I don't need to spend hours prepping. I could have quite literally span up another assignment that evening and gone into the next one.
This is a game that will come back out onto the table. I reckon, Rory, you would love this.
Oh, it sounds so good.
I also reckon that if we got our kids involved with an appropriate story, they would love it.
Oh.
And I genuinely think that this is a game that you can bring out for an afternoon with your family, sitting, having a few beers and a barbecue going, and having a hell of a good time doing it as well.
Sid, I know I'm coming to yours in a couple of weeks with the kids, and you've told me you've just got a copy of this game. I've just got goosebumps.
I have a copy of this game.
I'm going to play an RPG with the kids. Oh, that's good. I like it. I'm going to play an RPG in person. At a table.
Wow.
And I'm going to roll.
That in 10 years.
I can use my flower pot dice jar.
Oh my God. Well, That was Candela Obscura, Darrington Press. I mean, we'll talk about it in the next episode of Expo. I think I don't know if they're going to be at Expo again, but I'd love to see them again. The
list of publishers isn't out yet. So
I'm buying them flowers, cake, beers, wine, whatever they want, because frankly, they did me a huge favour on this game. I think it's immense. Absolutely,
I think I'm
going
to buy a copy. I was going to buy a copy last year when I spoke to them in person, but I didn't pull the trigger. But I think I probably will, because the book is beautiful. Actually, it's really lovely.
There is a list, Rory, and Darrington Press are on that list.
There is a list. Okay.
Yeah. Let's put that on your clipboard. Another action for you there, Rory. Right, before we ever talk, I actually want to shout out to another RPG at the moment, which is currently on Kickstarter, because I don't know what Andy's typical term he says there, but I'm a very small distance away from backing this, because the one game, like a classic RPG, we've not played, and I kind of realise it as a massive black hole in our RPG experience, is Traveller. Now, Traveller's been around for donkey's years, and it's kind of infamously the game in which you can die during character creation, which I think it's hilarious. I know some people find this winds them up, but I think it's absolutely fantastic. But they're on Kickstarter at the moment because they've got a campaign, which is called the Singularity campaign.
God, I bet they were up all night thinking that up, weren't they?
Well, it sounds absolutely immense. It's got a source book and a 3-act campaign, which means it's covering 3 separate hardback books, and there's a campaign companion, and there's a soundtrack. It sounds epic, and I think, speaking of, we mentioned Glass Cannon, and they've actually done a bit of Traveller on one of their shows, Legends of the Jump, is it?
Yep.
And it sounds not too complicated an RPG. It sounds like it's not too in-depth like D&D. So I'm wondering whether this is going to be our jumping-off point to try a bit of Traveller.
Well, with this brand new open-mindedness that we seem to be embracing these days.
Whoa, what's this open-mindedness bollocks?
Mate, I've had my world rocked. I'm open to new experiences now. I'm not going to believe everything I see.
Except musical theatre.
But that's a separate conversation, sir.
That was before we started recording as well, so there's no callback for that, Rory.
No, sorry.
Oh, dear. Anyway, that's Traveller, the Singularity campaign. It's on Kickstarter. By the time this podcast goes out, it should be on Kickstarter for another 12 days, so just over a week. Mm-hmm. So I'll put a link in the show notes to go check it out. Speaking about links in the show notes.
Bastard, Steve. Now I'm looking at it.
Speaking about links in the show notes, we've started a Discord server.
We have.
And so far, it is a rip-roaring success, I believe. We've had talk about board games. We've had chat about the tariffs. We've had people showing off their miniatures. We've had people insulting us, which we'd expect.
Someone put a ginger beard on Hermione.
That was genius,
Rory's face
that was really good.
Hermione. Well done, Phil. We've got a link in the show notes. Come join us. If you've not been on Discord, it's a perfect example. It's a perfect reason to sign up for Discord. And I must admit, I can see everyone, because I've got admin rights, I can see how long everyone's joined for. The amount of people that appear to have signed up for Discord just to chat on our server is amazing. Yeah, it's there's loads of people. So yeah, it's going really well. I've just, under Rory's request, I've just set up a new group for expos, conventions, and meetups.
You make
so he's
it
got
sound,
his own thread now.
A, so arduous that you had to do that, and B, like it's not necessary.
It took me 5 seconds, Rory. You gave me an action, I did the action. So,
That's because Rory had already filled the form in that he'd written in triplicate to make sure that he could submit
that I created
information to create it.
Oh, dear. Oh, that almost sounds like a joke I need to do next time I request a new forum on Discord.
Fill in the form.
Form 278, paragraph B.
Speaking of which, just slightly off topic, my former flatmate of mine at uni, when we sort of started working, this is a while ago now, obviously, because we've been in the real world for far too long. He was telling me in the establishment in which he worked, which I shall not name, there was one particular instance where, and this is a true story, he had to fill in a form to requisition a form.
I kind of like that.
Mate, that Rory's just come in his pants.
Well, I remember a building, and it's a building you used to work in, Andy, because I remember visiting your office.
Oh, yeah.
And it's very similar, but the health and safety gone mad epitomised here, where they'd actually dug up, there's like a central channel to get to the electrics and the power, and they had to dig it up. And so therefore the carpet was a little bit flappy, just a little bit flappy. And a sensible person like Sid would have just got some gaffer tape on, stuck it down, done. No, someone had to put a waist-high barrier around this section of slippy carpet. But the section of slippy carpet was about 1 metre from some double doors.
Right.
So the double doors now had a sign on there that said warning, warning signs.
That's absolutely superb. Good grief. If you have any ridiculous health and safety or even just random signage mishaps, then please do join the Discord server and share them with us.
Yeah, come and pick on us. Join us in what we do best.
And before we get, can I just give Neil Turnicliffe a little shout out? He's been in he won the Segway It Yourself contest. I've been running on Facebook because we're so great at our segues. I thought I'd let our listeners kind of contribute to that as well. And Neil Turnicliffe did a much better segue between Age of Innovation and El Paso.
As predicted,
because our one wasn't great. Yeah, well done, Neil.
Come on, read it out.
Oh,
then.
sorry.
Come on.
A game that is continually innovating is Great Western Trail. And now we're going to talk about the most recent innovation, El Paso, which is a lot better than what we did was, well, here's another game that we've been playing on BGA.
Do you know what I could do?
Yeah.
I could actually go in and edit the previous episode. I could actually now take that clip and put it back in. I mean, I'm not going to because that's too much work, but I could.
Right.
Speaking of too much work, this episode is getting far too long and I've got too much to edit. So thank you very much for listening, everyone. Please give us a review on iTunes or your podcast platform of choice. Please also give us a like, comment on Facebook, YouTube, all the other algorithm feeding things. We are on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky. Everywhere, just look for Polyhedron Collider, Board Game Geek Guild 2726, and of course our shiny new Discord server, which link is for below. Don't forget also we are sponsored by Kienda. I believe Hard Rock 77 was a Kienda review copy.
It was a review copy we got from Kienda, yeah.
Yes, so if you'd like a discount on your next board game purchase, go check them out. Again, link in the show notes. And also, Rory has been designing some snazzy official PHC merch.
Which you
with
International Fashion Designer Summers over here.
Yeah.
Calvin Summers.
The beautifully shonkiest photoshops of our faces on the models, which I think is absolutely brilliant, at zazzle.com/colliderclobber.
Nice.
We'll be back soon with a UK Games Expo preview.
So excited.
So until next time, happy gaming.
Ta-ra.
Cheerio.
Bye-bye.
Can I ask that we be very careful with our zazzle.com?
Right.
Every time I read it, I see razzle. Every time.